We're up here in northern Minnesota. Had an awesome day catching a bunch of fun fish. You know, new lake, new place, northern largemouth on the Hella Crawz. It's a really cool bait. It's something I always have on, ton of action. You can swim it, you can flip it. Really a versatile bait. Gets a lot of bites. Stay tuned, see a lot more fish catches and more on the Hella Crawz. There's no one chasing it. Got him. It's a little one, but it's a start. Luke Clausen here. We're up in northern Minnesota, up with Tackle Warehouse, a bunch of Z-Man Shimano products. We're gonna be testing out some new stuff, some stuff that's been out, playing around these northern fish, fun to catch. We're gonna catch some largemouth and smallmouth this week. Right now we're throwing the chatterbait Stealth Blade, half ounce of little baby goats on the back of it, but we're gonna be experimenting with all kinds of baits. Stay tuned, a lot of fish catches. It's not that big, but it's fighting hard. Oh, get out of there. That's fun, those reeds, they just run off with it. That little Hella Crawz by Z-Man is a deadly little bait to get bites. It just has a ton of action. And of course, when it lands on the bottom, the buoyancy of those stand up like a little crawdad. Pretty fish up here shallow, these northern largemouth, northern Minnesota. It's a lot of fun to catch these fish. They fight so strong. It's like these fish are fight like spring fish in the south where you catch these northern fish. They're just beautiful, clean fish. A lot of them never probably seen a bait or been caught before. They live half the year under ice and they fall for that little Hella Crawz. Oh man, that's a little nicer one there on the Hella Crawz again. We're out here flipping these reeds, and you know, I chose this Hella Crawz because there's a lot of kicking action. So not only does it fall and kick the whole time down, but I also have the ability to swim it through these sparser reeds. You know, a straight style bait, it doesn't look very good swimming. It's going to be really mundane. This here has a lot of action. It's kicking a lot through the water. That little chunk there, couldn't resist it. That's pretty fun catching them out of these reeds like that. These fish up here fight so hard and a lot of fun to catch. Well, we just got up here to this lake, and you know, it's northern Minnesota. We know pretty much most of the lakes have largemouth and smallmouth both in them. We're still really trying to figure out how we can catch them best and what we can catch best. We've caught a few flipping these reeds, but still trying to decipher the best part of the reeds. You can see there's a lot of reeds out here, and this is the shallower part of them. We had one bite in here, we had one out deeper, but there's gonna be places in these reeds that are gonna be better than others. You know, if we can decipher that, we can go anywhere else in the lake and probably catch them too. Anytime you go to a new lake, there's always kind of a learning curve. You know, sometimes you get lucky and catch them right away, but we don't really know what we're up against here. Never been here before, and flipping a lot of these reeds and trying to determine when you get a bite too. So a lot of times I'll flip in here looking for hard edges or thick clumps, something that differentiates the reeds, but also I'll pitch it in there, let it fall to the bottom, and kind of hop it back. So if I get a bite as I'm hopping it, as it's coming through the water and it's swimming, then I know that I can get out in these more sparse reeds and just swim my bait, cover more water, catch more fish. If all the bites are on the bottom, I know I probably need to slow down a little bit, fish the bait on the bottom a little bit more. So working the bait really two different ways through the reeds here. A lot of times I'll pitch to a target, but yet I'll swim it back and just see when I get those bites. And that a lot of times will change throughout the day, but you know, a lot of times you can figure it out, and it really changes your day if you realize you can catch them one way or another better and not waste the time swimming it, or not waste the time letting it fall to the bottom and just swim it. You know, and also what part of the reeds. It's always a learning curve in these new lakes, and we've caught a few doing it, but we're gonna get it dialed in here shortly. Man, that is fun right there. Thing absolutely smoked that Hella Crawz. It fell down those reeds and I hopped it up once and just lit it up. Not a giant fish, but that little Hella Crawz gets a lot of bites. We'll get a big one here before long. We're starting to get more bites. It seems like they're in these deeper reeds and they're liking the Hella Crawz. I'm gonna let this fish go. Tell you a little bit about how we're rigging the bait here. So the Hella Crawz is pretty simple rigging for me. You know, most of the time I'm using it as a flipping bait, whether I'm pitching around lighter weight or punching it with a heavy weight. And today I'm using a 5/8 ounce tungsten weight, a bobber stop on it. In these reeds, I don't want that weight swinging free because of course you can get around reeds when I'm pitching through the reeds. I'm trying to get it over these reeds, they're blowing in the wind. 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. I use an FG knot to 50-pound braided line, but I like a smaller hook with it than a lot of guys. A lot of guys like a big hook for flipping, think you need this giant hook. The problem with that, with these reeds, is your line gets around stuff. A lot of times you pick up and one's got it and he's going the other way. This is a 3/0 owner jungle flipping hook. I like the 3/0 personally. Even in this heavier cover like this, it just hooks them a lot better. Of course, that green pumpkin Hella Crawz, and that right there is going to get a lot of bites, and already has got quite a few bites. You know, this is Elastic, so it's super durable. I've caught several fish on this, and it's got a lot more life in it. I'm gonna go catch another one. There he is. Oh, I think absolutely smoked that Hella Crawz. You can see that 3/0 hook, it really gets them. You know, I mentioned about a smaller hook, and that really does a better job of hooking them than a bigger hook, and it stays in your bait better in these reeds. Now this setup I'm using here is a 7.3 SLX Shimano rod. So it's an entry-level rod, but it's a really good rod for this system. And that 7.3 is a little bit shorter, which allows me to be accurate and shoot through these lanes. You can see how much these reeds are moving, and it's really hard to get your bait in there without hitting a reed and without your line being wrapped around them. That in an 8.5-to-1 Corrado K 200 XG, that faster reel lets me get my bait in quicker more than anything, so I can reel my bait in, get another pitch back in there, just a lot more efficient. 50-pound Seaguar Smackdown, a 20-pound Tatsu leader, does the job on these bass. Get out of there. There's a little better one. Oh. That is fun right there. Oh, it's not a giant, but it's a lot of fun catching these fish. That Hella Crawz, they just can't stand that thing kicking down through those reeds. We moved over to the windier side here, and it seems like they're a little bit more aggressive, getting a lot more bites on the initial fall, and they just go streaking off with it. Pretty green northern fish and green pumpkin Hella Crawz. That's a fish catching machine right there. That one. Got that one swimming it back through there. Oh, pretty fish on the Hella Crawz. That is fun right there, swimming across that reed clump, and it just smoked it on that Hella Crawz. I think that's a day for us boys. We've had a blast catching a bunch of these largemouth up in the reeds up here and on the Hella Crawz. Really an awesome bait for flipping, but works good as a jig trailer. Even on a Carolina rig, it'll float a hook up and stay way up off the bottom. Ton of action. Hella Crawz, one of my favorite baits. In some way, some form, some fashion, I have it tied on most of the year. If you like the video, tag a friend, get in the gear giveaway. We're gonna head to the house. We've had enough of catching these.